Churchill and the Bengal famine. During World War II, Bengal faced a severe famine, and some people accused Winston Churchill of causing it. However, evidence suggests that Churchill appointed Archibald Wavell to help with relief efforts. The famine resulted from various factors, including wartime constraints, hoarding, and political tensions. Madhusri Mukherjee's book blamed Churchill, but some experts disagreed, stating that food shortages were due to local mismanagement. Churchill believed there was no food shortage but problems in distributing food. He praised Indian soldiers but was critical of Indian independence leaders. Churchill's comments about Indians were mixed, with some claiming he made racist remarks. However, these comments were sometimes taken out of context, and he had a complex relationship with Indian leaders. Ultimately, Churchill's role was more about oversight than direct management during the famine. The British government sent significant food aid to Bengal, and the famine was eventually brought under control with Wavell's help. History has multiple perspectives, and understanding it requires careful examination of all the facts. The Bengal famine serves as a reminder of the importance of cooperation and compassion during challenging times. During World War II, a terrible famine struck Bengal, a region in India. Some people accuse Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, of causing this disaster. They claim he deliberately starved 4 million Bengalis to death. But let's take a closer look. The famine happened when Japan invaded Bengal, and there were food shortages. Churchill appointed a capable person named Archibald Wavell to help. However, some say Churchill could have done more to prevent tensions between Hindus and Muslims, which made the situation worse. The accusations against Churchill come from a book written by a journalist named Madhusri Mukherjee. She blames Churchill for mistakes made on the ground in Bengal, but others disagree with her findings. Churchill believed there was no food shortage in Bengal, but instead, there were problems with how food was distributed locally. A famous economist, Amartya Sen, also supported this view. He said Mukherjee's data was limited and misunderstood the situation. The real cause of the famine was a mix of factors, including wartime supply constraints, hoarding by merchants, and poor relations between the government and traders. It wasn't just one person's fault. Churchill's role was more about overseeing the situation than managing it directly. He appointed Wavell to address the famine. Wavell did an excellent job, and with help, the famine was brought under control within months. Some accuse Churchill of not allowing food shipments to Bengal, but this isn't entirely true. The British government sent over 1 million tons of grain to Bengal during the crisis. Churchill's views about Indians were mixed. He admired the bravery of Indian soldiers but was not friendly towards Indian independence. Some claim he made racist comments, but others think he was trying to shock or tease people. In the 1940s, Churchill considered Indian leaders who wanted independence as moralizing humbugs. He believed that a quick move to independence could cause problems in the country. However, his views softened over time, and he saw the potential for a great shining India, with unity and pride. He also praised the courage of Indian soldiers during the war, over 2 million of whom volunteered to serve in the forces. On the other hand, Churchill expressed negative opinions about Indians during political discussions. He once said he hated Indians, and called them a beastly people with a beastly religion. These comments were taken out of context, and he was known for making outrageous remarks to shock or tease others. Despite these opinions, Churchill recognized the need to help India during the famine. He instructed the War Cabinet to provide relief aid, even if it meant diverting shipping from war purposes. The famine was a tragic event, and while Churchill faced criticism, he took significant measures to alleviate the suffering in Bengal. History often has multiple perspectives, and understanding it requires careful examination of all the facts. In July 1944, during a lunch with an Indian statesman named Sir Ramaswamy Mudaliar, a member of the War Cabinet, Churchill assured him that the old notion that the Indian was in any way inferior to the white man must disappear. He wanted to see a great shining India that everyone could be proud of, just like Canada or Australia. Churchill also mentioned India's growing population and how British rule had allowed it to increase by 200 million. He contrasted this with the plight of American Indians, whose population had declined. But these statements should not be taken as evidence of him wanting to harm the Indian people. In conclusion, the Bengal famine was a terrible tragedy with complex causes. Some accused Churchill of causing it, but the evidence shows that he took significant measures to help Bengal. His views about Indians were mixed, and he made some remarks that were controversial. However, he also recognized the bravery of Indian soldiers and believed in India's potential for greatness. Understanding history means considering different perspectives to find the truth of those times. The famine reminds us of the importance of cooperation and compassion during difficult times. Churchill's views on Indians in quotes. Winston Churchill had mixed views about Indians during his time as Prime Minister. On one hand, he admired the bravery of Indian soldiers who volunteered to serve in the forces during World War II. He noted their courage and considered their contributions to be significant. However, Churchill's views on Indian independence were different. He saw many Indian leaders advocating for independence as moralizing humbugs. He believed that a hasty move towards independence could lead to problems and division in the country. These opinions were reflected in his political discussions. At times, Churchill made controversial and negative remarks about Indians. For example, he was once heard expressing, "I hate Indians. They are a beastly people with a beastly religion." These comments were said to be in reference to Hinduism, but he had shown support for the Muslim League, whose members were cooperating with the British in the war effort. It is essential to consider the context of these statements. Churchill was known for his sometimes provocative and teasing language, even towards his colleagues like Leopold Amory. While some of his remarks were offensive, they need to be understood within the larger context of his character and communication style. Despite his mixed views, Churchill recognized the need to provide aid during the Bengal famine. He took steps to help Bengal by appointing capable individuals like Archibald Wavell and providing food aid, even if it meant diverting shipping from war purposes. In conclusion, Churchill's views on Indians were complex and had both positive and negative aspects. While he admired Indian soldiers' bravery, he had concerns about Indian independence leaders. Some of his remarks were controversial, but his actions during the Bengal famine show his efforts to provide aid and alleviate the suffering in Bengal.